Good morning. Good morning. On behalf of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus, welcome to our Sunday service. My name is Kelly McNeil. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am honored to serve this congregation as Minister of Congregational Life. We gather in the homelands of the Adena, the Hopewell, the Wyandotte, Miami, Seneca, and the Cayuga peoples. Let us take a moment of silence together to express our gratitude and appreciation for the connections of Indigenous people to this place. Thank you. Sue will now lead us in our opening hymn, Wake Now My Senses. The words will appear on the screen in front of you, and it is number 298 in our gray hymnal if you would like to follow along. So please rise as willing and able, and let us sing together.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth seated.
Welcome to our series of summer services. It is so very good to be with you this bright, sunny morning. We are excited to introduce guest speakers and ministers who will present a variety of topics and ideas. Our senior minister, the Reverend Dr. Marion Stewart, will return to the pulpit in mid-August. We are glad you joined us today, both in person and online. Please let us know that you are here today by filling out our check-in form online or at the greeter's stand. This simple act helps us maintain connections within our congregation. You can access this check-in form, our order of service, joys and sorrows form, and our donation page by scanning the QR code on your screen. We also have pen and paper, joys and sorrows cards, which you can submit at the candle table back in that back corner. I would now like to invite any children who are with us this morning who would like to help light our chalice by bringing in the light to meet Amber back in the back of the sanctuary and go out into the welcome hall to prepare. Our young people will return in just a few moments. Let us now center ourselves as we listen to this morning's prelude. Our children will now bring in the light.
Here is where we gather in the presence of the sacred. Here is where we gather to experience the holy. Here is where we come together to face the unanswerable questions. and acknowledge that not knowing is as sublime as it is frustrating. Here is where we unite in the midst of life and all its glories and suffering it can hold, knowing both are ever present. Here is where we ask, think, risk, discuss, ponder, fight, offer what might not be welcomed or even acceptable somewhere else. Here is where, if we allow it, we are deeply moved. Here is where we encounter each other in deep and powerful ways that surprise us, yet without which we would not survive. Here we gather to worship, to experience something, to have something happen, perhaps different for each of us according to our beliefs, something unnamed, uncategorized, and unusual, and absolutely necessary. Here we are so gathered, our minds, our hearts, and our souls, and so our worship begins.
Thank you, Lydia, for your help lighting our chalice this morning. And thank you all for welcoming our first UUers of all ages into our worship service. I'm Amber Scott, your Director of Religious Exploration. For more information about our family programs or to volunteer to help with classes and other activities for children and youth, please email me at amber@firstuucolumbus.org. Our story today is called Red, A Crayon Story, written and illustrated by Michael Hall. He was red, but he wasn't very good at it. Oh dear. His teacher thought he needed more practice. I'll draw a red strawberry, then you draw a red strawberry. You can do this, really. But he couldn't, really. Like this? Oh my, let's try again. His mother thought he needed to mix with other colors. Why don't you two go out and draw a nice round orange, a really big one, a really orange one? But they made a greenish one. Yuck. Oops. His grandparents thought he wasn't warm enough. Your class is making self-portraits for Parents' Night. Wear this warm red scarf. Nice, it's so you. But it so wasn't. Oh dear me. Everyone seemed to have something to say. Sometimes I wonder if he's really red at all. Don't be silly, it says red on his label. He came that way from the factory. Frankly, I don't think he's very bright. Well, I think he's lazy. Right, he's got to press harder, really apply himself. Give him time, he'll catch on. Of course he will. But he didn't catch on. Green frog, black sheep, brown cow, red ack. All the art supplies wanted to help. The masking tape thought he was broken inside. This will help hold you together. The scissors thought his label was too tight. One snip should do it. I thought he wasn't sharp enough. Stay still now. But he just couldn't get the hang of it. One day, he met a new friend. Will you make a blue ocean for my boat? I can't, I'm red. Will you try? So he did. Thank you, it's perfect. You're welcome. It was easy. And he didn't stop there. Bluebells, blue jeans, bluebirds, blueberries, blue whale. I'm blue! He was blue, and everyone was talking. My son is so brilliant. Who could have known that he was blue? I always said he was blue, it was obvious. His blue ocean really lifted me. All of his work makes me happy. His blue strawberries are my favorite. He's so intense. I'm going to make a green lizard with him, a really big one. I hear he's working on a huge new project. He's really reaching for the sky. And he really was. The end. In this story, a blue crayon, mistakenly labeled as red, discovers his true self after a big shift in perspective. Language is powerful, and the words we use to define ourselves, including our names and our pronouns, are important. Let us reflect on the ways we can hold space for each other's true selves and true names within our community and also the larger world. Thank you. I now invite the congregation to remain seated and to form a sheltering arc of love as we sing our young people back to their families and out to class.
Beneath our arms we shelter you. You warm our hearts as you pass through. May our love guide you as you go, to help you learn and help you grow. Our centering words this morning are from the Unitarian Universalist Association website. You can go there and find many inspirational readings. Telling by Laura Hershey. What you risk telling your story. You will bore them. Your voice will break, your ink spill and stain your coat. No one will understand their eyes. No one will understand. Their eyes become fences. You will park yourself forever on the outside, your differentness once and for all revealed, dangerous. The names you give to yourself will become epithets. Your happiness will be called bravery, denial. Your sadness will justify their pity. Your fear will magnify their fears. Everything you say will prove something about their God or their economic system. Your feelings that change day to day, kaleidoscope, will freeze in place, brand you forever, justify anything they decide to do with you. Those with power can afford to tell their story or not. Those without power risk everything to tell their story and must. Someone somewhere will hear your story and decide to fight, to live, and refuse compromise. Someone else will tell her own story, risk everything.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. A long way from home, a long way from home. Sometimes I feel like I have no friend. Sometimes I feel like I have no friend. Sometimes I feel like I Sometimes I feel like I've lost my way. Sometimes I feel like I've lost my way. Sometimes I feel like I lost my way. A long, long way from home. A long way from home.
Hearing Sue and Karen sing, Judy, you want to get up here and join? It is good to be home. For those of you who don't know me, this congregation ordained me. I started out as the DRE, and they ordained me this November. It will be 25 years ago. See how time flies when we're having fun. Our reading this morning is from the Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman. It's very easy to sit in judgment of the behavior of others, but often difficult to realize that every judgment is a self-judgment. A corollary to this fact is the finding again and again that the thing which seems to be objectionable in others is something of which I myself am guilty. For a few weeks during a summer series on a university campus, I shared a suite with two other men. The two men occupied one of the bedrooms and I the other. One night when I came in, as I opened the door, I heard a voice say, "Pipe down, for Pete's sake, pipe down." This was followed by the soft thud of a pillow being thrown against the wall. In a few minutes, one of the fellows stood at the door with disheveled hair and distraught features. "I can't go to sleep. Have you ever heard such snoring? There ought to be a law against it. Why doesn't his wife tell him? Or maybe she's a snorer too and she doesn't notice it." I replied that there was an extra bed in my room and he could share it if my reading lamp didn't disturb him for a while. He accepted gladly, assuring me that the light would not disturb him at all. And after he had retired and I settled down for an hour of reading, it began. The most pronounced and heavy snoring that I had ever heard in my life. I knew that sleep would be impossible, and I went into the living room where I spent the night on the couch. I had meant to wake up early so as not to embarrass him, but I accidentally overslept. And when he came out, he saw me and said, "Oh no, don't tell me. I'll never blow my top again about snorers." The only creative attitude toward the weaknesses or the disabilities of others is a quiet humility. What I condemn in others may be but a reflection of myself in the mirror. Well, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names can never hurt me. Whoever came up with that must never have been called names, because they certainly can hurt. Why else would bullies use them? I've been called many hurtful nicknames. I was an obese, homely child in secondhand clothes, and the names used to tease and taunt me were heard so often that I accepted them as my true identity. In addition to derisive names, I also disliked the derivatives of my given name. My given name is Patricia, but as a child, unless someone was angry with me, I was never called Patricia. I was called Patty, which often became Fatty Patty. Down the street lived a boy, Otto Huska, who came home from school one day in tears because some kid at school was teasing him about how funny his name sounded. Well, Mrs. Huska was enraged and wanted to know the name of this child because she was going to go talk to the teacher. And in between tears, Otto Huska said, Leon Schupkegel. Thurman is so right. What often we find worth name-calling or teasing in others is a true reflection of ourselves. Now, some nicknames are lovely. My maternal grandfather used to call me Patrish. I have no idea why, but he loved having a special name for me. And once I entered adolescence, my father ever after only called me Trish, the same name my husband calls me. Having early experiences of others choosing how I would be known, without ever asking me what I wanted, left me with a curiosity about the names we call each other. I was named Patricia. For most of my life, I've been Pat because that's simply what everyone called me, and I adopted it. But it never fit. Others love being called Pat and hate Patricia, and bless them. The advantage of having a name with so many derivatives is that you can choose what to call yourself. And so when I moved back to my childhood home of Cleveland 18 years ago, I began introducing myself as Patricia and asking that that be what people called me. And it feels so right to be known by a name I've chosen for myself. Now, if you call me Pat here, I won't be insulted or bothered. This is my home congregation. You all could call me anything you wanted, and you probably have over the years. And I'll be okay with that, because this is home. And our casual society, in which so many norms have changed, seem to include people using whatever derivative of your name that they deem appropriate without asking what you wish to be called. I still find myself allowing others to call me something they want to avoid social awkwardness, or simply because I get tired of reminding people, like reminding people of the spelling of my name. You saw it Sheldon and Sheldon. The E is correct. Today, more people are asking that we call them the names that truly identify them, as they, using plural pronouns. I hear how confusing this can be and how often people think it unnecessary. The intellectuals of us will remember Carl Jung's theory in his teachings that all of us have in us the anima and the animus, the male and the female. And accepting Jung, we could say that all of us should be using plural pronouns. But that doesn't feel true for all of us, does it? Some people think using plural pronouns is a way of differentiating yourself from the remainder of society, a way to be outside and separate. Yet feeling uncomfortable with something new and having us work to accept a new norm is actually called growth. My youngest son is engaged to a wonderful person whom I adore, and so does he. That's all that counts. And who chooses and asks to be referred to by plural pronouns. I have to say that the transition is often tricky for me, not because I don't accept their choice, but simply because it's new. And thankfully, neither my son nor Aaron correct me if I stumble on the wrong pronoun until I come up with them or their. I am thankful for their patience. And I want to honor this choice because in some teeny tiny degree, I know what it is to want to be called by who you truly feel you are. My name. I've been through so many changes and struggles, and I came out wanting to be named what fit inside my skin, so I have a little bitty window to understand wanting to be known by the names or pronouns that fit. We don't have to agree with the reasons to respect another's right to name themselves. I've been called many names behind my back and to my face that have hurt and that were not based on facts. I've been known by many real names and labels in my life: daughter, girlfriend, wife, mother, divorcee, student, minister, chaplain, grief specialist, Patricia, and I've lived and claimed them all. I'm also independent, liberal, pro-choice, and there are also names that those with opposing views would use to define me, but those are not who I truly am. Yet if the labels others would assign to me are an attempt to diminish who I am as a person, do the labels I assign to those with opposing views diminish or dismiss their humanity? I've been reflecting a lot lately on the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The reversal of Roe v. Wade caused labels to fly, and trust me, I have labeled many people in the last few weeks as I saw fit in response, and I have felt justified and righteous in doing so. And just when we think we have it all figured out, a mirror appears. I was with family before the 4th of July, and at night after small children had gone to bed, neighbors right next door started shooting off loud and obnoxious fireworks, scaring the children, having them screaming in their beds, making any conversation or interaction with each other impossible. And I, in my most liberal and accepting and mature way, referred to those celebrants with some choice words. And my daughter-in-law looked at me with pained eyes, as if I had just hurt her to the core, and said, "Oh, please don't call them that. It's just their way of having fun." What a reflection of myself. I was doing to others exactly what I blame others for doing to me. I was dismissing their humanity because I felt self-righteous. I still disagree with their choice to shoot off fireworks before the 4th of July in a neighborhood where there are little kids, but name-calling is something I should work to be beyond. How many times have we all heard or said this sentence in the last months? Our country is at a dangerous time. And I believe one of the most dangerous aspects of this time is the inability to have civil discourse. And by our tendency to strip groups of people of their humanity by labeling them. We have names, and we're clever, new labels for those with opposing views, and in using them, we are stating that massive groups of the population should be reduced to those derisive names we use to define them. I have no problem calling someone an insurrectionist based on their actions. Yet I am struggling with how to speak without dismissing the personhood of someone who believes differently than I do. I use names, labels, such as right, left, liberal, conservative, and I'm fine with those. They're names we often claim for ourselves. But as a country, we have been reduced to a schoolyard in which we call each other names and give labels in anger that remind me of those childhood names that damaged me so much, that took years of therapy to get over. Because we believe they are misguided and wrong, we feel empowered to consider them of reduced intellect, and we assign many other attributes. And I wonder if there is a way to recognize that it is a person who has an opposing view, even if I feel that view is horribly, dangerously wrong. I do know how emotional and frightening this time is. I've been so frustrated that I find myself using labels, names, some of you might be shocked to know the occasional expletive, to define those whom I believe are attempting to tear our democratic fiber apart. I'm disgusted with politicians who choose to follow their party instead of their conscience and their constituents, and I'm terrified that we will keep moving backward, losing hard-won rights. Yet with all this nasty and demeaning rhetoric, we forget that we are naming other people, human beings. At least I forget. These are people who love, who care for their families and communities. And in the last few years, our country was given permission to omit civil discourse and accept name-calling, clever or not so clever, making fun of those who believe differently and dismissing the humanity of others. We have extremists who want to undo almost 250 years of hard-won democracy, and many of us respond with extreme language and names because we're scared. I sure do. Yet we here claim to be committed to the belief of the inherent worth and dignity of every person, not the people who agree with us, not the people who behave as we do, not the people we want to see inherent worth and dignity in, every person. And still, out of our fear and frustration, we're guilty of dismissing the personhood of others, or at least I am. As a community minister, in 30 years of ministry, I have journeyed with many people of many different faiths, countries of origin, political views, varying levels of education, some with none, diverse upbringings and social groups, from people who are indigent to those who are extremely wealthy, and I have learned one thing. They are each and every one of them a person. They love, they fear, they grieve, they hurt, they laugh, they want what is best, and they are too worn down to care. They feel. And they're each person part of the human race. Is there not some higher road to take? To fight with every ounce of our being for what we believe is right, without reducing other people to labels and names we think are clever and appropriate. Before and after the reversal of Roe v. Wade, I enjoyed all the slogans, such as "Get your laws out of my uterus." They're absolutely accurate. I own that same anger and fear about our backward slide into a morality built by those who will not bear the consequences of these decisions. And I wanted to add my own clever slogan that said, "Men, prepare for paternity suits, DNA tests, and child support." Because it's not until we get to the people making these decisions, and they have consequences, that things will change. Then I started wondering if every anti-abortion fundamentalist, or those who want limits to abortion, is someone who wants to lord their religion and their self-righteousness over us, and someone who doesn't care about the less fortunate, who will not be able to travel for abortions or get birth control, will not be able to feed or educate children or pay for childcare. What if just a few of them are women or men who've lost one or more child, watch their children die, and are clouded by their grief and emptiness? What if a few of them are people who have repeatedly lost pregnancies and now can never have children and cannot fathom a reason to end a pregnancy? What if some of them lost a late-term pregnancy and are haunted by that experience? I still would disagree on their stance with abortion, 100%. But I can also sympathize with the human emotion behind their choice, just as I sympathize with every woman who's had an abortion and had a tough time making that decision and living with the consequences. Are there ways to appeal to each other's humanity or personhood rather than simply calling names and labeling, and not think of each other as people? Or maybe I'm just preaching to myself because I needed to remind myself of this. I know someone will go to extremes and ask if I honor the humanity or the personhood in Hitler. No, I do not. Pure evil is an aberration of humanity, and evil needs to be called what it is. I'm not Mother Teresa, as those of you who know me will be aware. I'm flawed enough that there are limits to my open-mindedness, and to quote Channing, "No one can be excommunicated from the Unitarian faith except by the death of goodness in their soul." There's a huge difference between knowing someone by their beliefs or by their actions. We're vastly different from missionary Baptists, but I don't hear us calling them names. And I do believe that someone can be named for their actions. I have no problems referring to people as mass murderers or corrupt politicians. But for decades, my ministry has been simply to find the one way in which I could connect with even the most unlikable or difficult person. It might just be that they showered today. One way that I'm like them, in order to see their humanity so that I might minister to them. And I have in my years needed to minister to both grieving parents, and child abusers. That forced me to search for their humanity and my own. This has been the foundation of my ministry, and it is based on my knowledge that I too have been unlikable, wrong, hurtful, and difficult. How we name each other and what we want to be named may be two very different versions of ourselves. I may prefer to be called Patricia now, but I hope to be named a flawed human being who did their best. That's how I try to think of others. I don't achieve perfect consistency in my good actions. Remember that flawed part? But whether the issue is what people need to be called or how people believe, if we understand that individuals are people, and from that point look for connections rather than what is divisive, perhaps we can be a more united States. Better still, please know me by no other name than a person of inherent worth and dignity, and I will try to do the same with you. So may it be, and blessed may it be. Amen.
Our musical interlude today is a hymn. If you would like to rise, you can do so. If you'd like to remain seated, that's fine too. Oh, I'm sorry, it's in the gray hymnal. It's number 89. Come my way, my truth, my life.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Linda Smith. I'm one of your pastoral care ministers. This morning for our offering, we are sharing the plate with Pro-Choice Ohio and Faith Choice Ohio. First UU member, Cal McConaughey, is the director of Pro-Choice Ohio. First UUer Jane Larson is a longtime Pro-Choice Ohio board member and serves on the PCO Foundation. Elena Ramsey is the director of Faith Choice Ohio, and she was just with us a couple weeks ago. And our own senior minister, Reverend Marion, serves on its board of directors. and many UUers volunteer supporting reproductive rights. Reproductive health care is a justice issue. The right to make decisions informed by our circumstances in conversation with our family and our healthcare professionals is a matter of dignity, respect, and privacy. The Supreme Court and our own state government have ruled that reproduction is not a private matter and carries the threat of penalty or imprisonment. This affects everyone, especially those in minority communities and people in economically challenging circumstances. The work is urgent, the work is incredibly hard, the work is desperately needed. Thank you for supporting reproductive rights. Please use the QR code on the screen, or go to our website, firstuucolumbus.org, and click the Donate tab to share as you feel called and are able. Our offering will now be gratefully received. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you, Karen, for that wonderful, sweet music. For our caring meditation, I offer words I've adapted from Kim Wildzuski on the UUA Worship Web. The wonder and the blessing that you are. We have come with stardust in our hair, with the rush of planets in our blood, with heart beating out the seasons of eternity, with a shining in our eyes like the sunlight. As you all are present here and online today, may it be known that we count you among our blessings. When you were young, there were assumptions made about you. You were given a name, boxes, boundaries. You were called by words that may not have been right. In your own true growing, you discovered that what you were given was not what you could keep. You had to try on new names, new words, new ways to be called. And you attended to, you felt how your spirit responded. Let it be known that this journey of resistance, of discovery, of alignment has been a sacred one. May you feel the freedom to stretch fully into your most true self, and may you witness all who love you, call you by names and a name and words that affirm the wonder and blessing that you are, that you always have been. As your life continues to unfurl, may you remember moments when you were seen, known, and loved. Blessed be. Amen. Now I'd like to invite our pastoral listener, Sylvia Howe, to share this morning's caring cards and joys and sorrows. And while Sylvia makes her way up, I want to remind us all that we sit surrounded by many connections, both visible and invisible, that remind us every day that we are not alone. Peace be with us and with all beings that share this earth. Sylvia.
We have 4 caring cards this morning. We send our sympathy to Tiffany G. Her stepfather, Tim Laubus, died recently. He brought much joy to the family and will be greatly missed. We send healing energy to Erica S., who is undergoing tests to determine the source of her low back pain. We are happy to announce that our pianist, Nathan H., is healing well after foot surgery. Yes. And Chris B. wants to share, I am incredibly lucky to have found a wonderful new family. I've been single most of my life, but last fall I took a leap of faith. I moved to Ohio and married my husband, Matt, 24 years in the making. With that has come a wonderful teenager who just finished their junior year of high school after a year of dramatic change that I know couldn't have been easy. I am so grateful for this turn in my life. There's been so much heartache these last few weeks that Chris wanted to share their joy in hopes it helps others to hear that wonderful things are also happening. No more joys and sorrows came in this morning. We encourage you to visit the caring table in Beach Hall after the service to sign caring cards, whether or not you know the people involved. This long-time tradition of signing cards in person is an important outreach to members and friends. Even if there are no cards to sign, you can stop and say hello to our volunteers. May we hold all these joys and sorrows and all those yet unspoken deep in our hearts and pray for and send caring love and messages to them through the week.
And now, as I ring the temple bell, I invite you into a moment of shared silence, reflection, imagination, prayer, or simply just breathe. We will ring the bell a second time to continue our service.
Thank you for welcoming me home. May the touching of hearts and souls, foreign or frightening or welcome, become a source of comfort for us all. May this time of gathering and acceptance allow each of us to be who we are, because we truly can be no one else. May the connection and love we feel be the strength we take with us and the reason we will return. May each of us strive to be and see in others a person of inherent worth and dignity. And until then, may all that is holy be with you. May you always be mindful of the sacred that surrounds you. So be it, and amen. Our closing hymn, I invite you to rise in body or spirit and sing hymn number 134, Our World is One, in your gray hymnal.
If you are online, I invite you to bring your chalice closer to extinguish our flame together. If you are here in person after the postlude, you're welcome to go to Beach Hall for conviviality and conversation. I invite you to join me in speaking our vision statement as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love.